PSD EdTech Coaches Podcast, Season 2, Episode 10, our season finale, Thoughts to End the Year. Welcome to the PSD EdTech Coaches Podcast, a podcast for educators by educators that love to equip teachers, ponder, and discuss current issues and climate in education. With your hosts, Dan Hopman and Steve Stuckey. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Steve Stuckey here with my co-host, Dan Hopman.
How's everyone going? It's been a little bit since we've recorded.
I think so. I don't remember the last time we recorded. It might have been 2-3 months.
Something like that. It shows how busy we've been over the last 2 or 3 months with reopening.
A lot of changes going on in education in Palmdale School District. We also have a couple guests here today, and we'll include them in a minute. But we've got the other two EdTech coaches, Melissa Shields and Jerry Sloan. Ladies.
Hi. Hello.
It's good to have you guys here. I know it's, like Steve said in the intro, it's our season finale going into...
Yeah, this could go off the rails. I'm just going to let you know because, there's a lot of thoughts going through my head and the script may be thrown out.
And that's okay. That's it's the beauty of having a finale. It's
the script is a little lean as it is.
It is.
It really is.
But it is all about us ending this crazy year. At least we had students come back, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's not about just ending it, but it's also thinking now forward about what's going to be happening in the fall. And I think it would be a good time to encourage teachers to be thinking about what traditional online instruction might look like versus quality online instruction versus what most teachers have been doing, which is emergency remote teaching.
Yeah, it's, I guess the idea of hey, I've got these kids in front of me. I need to do something. Let me just throw this at them. Maybe something will stick. And we need to be more thoughtful on what we're doing with those kids.
Yeah, I started reading a book about 100 things that teachers need to stop doing in their classrooms. And boy, I want to encourage a lot of people to stop doing some things. Stop working this summer would be probably the first one. Take a breath.
I like that idea. A lot of stuff going on this year. I think we need to start thinking about ourselves a little bit and try to kind of take a break.
I think we should also talk about what your coaches, since we're all sitting here in your room, at least for the tech coaches. I'm not speaking for your tips coaches or anything else, but what your coaches do for you. And I think it's important to understand that we are not your... let me fix your computer. That's your tech's problem.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more in detail what we can do for you. We are in a service business, but it's more about what we can do for you in your pedagogy.
We want to come up alongside you and improve what happens in your classroom.
Absolutely.
Obviously with the focus of incorporating technology. But it's not just about the technology. It's about student engagement. It's about student learning first and foremost. And will fit in the technology if it is needed.
So on that note, let's go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about this idea of how we look at this remote teaching that we're doing now and whether or not it's actually remote teaching.
Well, for sure, we can't be sure for sure what teaching and learning is going to look like in the fall. I guess we can hope that everything is what would be back to normal, but there could be any number of variations of hybrid that might be happening. Some might still be in school, some might be remote.
And it'll be interesting what fall does bring and what that definition of back to normal looks like. I know that is still up in the air. As a teacher, though, what might you be focusing on for next year? I know you do a lot of planning when you're always writing in your book about.
I'm not planning anything.
Yes, I realize that. This is true.
What are you all laughing at?
This is true. However, let's put yourself in a shoe as if you were.
I'm planning on taking a step back and just watching it all happen next year. That's the advantage, and I guess if nobody's listened before, but I get to retire in a week.
Armchair teacher.
That's right. I will be that armchair teacher. I will pop into these podcasts and I will tell you what to stop doing, what you should be doing, and you can either listen to it or throw it out the door. Won't make a difference to me, other than I've got 34 years of teaching under my belt. So I guess what was the question?
So first of all, congratulations. I've had the privilege of working with you for the last 16 years, and so it's well-deserved. So the question was, let's say you were going to come back in August as a teacher. What would you start? Because I know you always look forward for the next year. What would you be focusing on over the summer for next year?
So one of the things I guess that, and I've been guilty of it, and I think a lot of teachers are guilty of it, is that we talk too much. I used to have a poster up in my classroom that said, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you speak. And really, that poster probably should have been there for me. And it should be there for other teachers who are talking far too much. And the kids actually need to be engaged and talking twice as much as they listen.
For sure.
Yeah, I know it's. We always talk about the teachers doing most of the work, and it seems like the kids kind of get out of it. Maybe they get to take notes, or maybe they've got a worksheet they have to do, but the teacher's performing the entire time at the front of the classroom.
Well, so it is my last week, so maybe I can just call out some names of what I've observed. No, I won't do that. But I have observed teachers dominating the lesson 90+% of the time and not even care. I don't know if they didn't care, but didn't realize that kids weren't even engaged in what was going on. Chairs are turned, they're doodling on something else, they're not paying attention, they're not working on what the teacher expects them to be working on because the teacher's doing all of the work. And, we've said this for a couple years now, and we stole it from Alice Keeler, which was the ones doing the learning should be doing the working, not the teacher. Teacher, you need to design those lessons to get those students engaged and doing the problem solving and doing the working. You need to be the artist that sets that up for them.
And realistically, teachers don't know everything anymore. We can't.
But not in this world.
Everything changes so fast.
If your lesson is something that a student can Google to fill in a worksheet, which is a waste of time, then it's a waste of time. There's no real learning going on, no in-depth learning, no retention of that material. They need to design something so where the kids are, what am I looking for?
Involved.
They're producing.
They're not only producing,
Yeah.
but are involved in the planning of what they might be interested in. Although we understand you have your standards and things you need to hit, and those kids need to understand what those are, but they can design how and where they're going to learn that information and what they produce.
And I know a lot of the things that we push as EdTech coaches, we talk about edu protocols a lot, which is a great way, regardless of the standard, for kids to be able to produce and show what they know, because that's what we really want to know. When I have a principal say, well, you gave this grade, how do you know this is the grade? I want to be able to say, well, let me show you what was the product from the student.
So I think also then, if I would go back, and I think we lost a lot of this during COVID, is the collaboration piece with students in the classroom. Going into a breakout room, and not many did that for fear of having an unsupervised breakout room. And when they did, there was usually an aide or someone directing every minute of that instructional time. But the collaborative piece in the classroom, I think, needs to come back. That if I walked into a classroom and the kids are actually working together on something and can explain to me what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how they're going about it, I know the teachers designed something where the kids are digging in deep and they're all involved at that point.
My favorite classes to walk around in are the ones where the teacher gets the chance to walk around that room on their own and observe instead of being. It pains me to see teachers up in the front thinking that they've got to be the ones performing, and we want students performing. That's why we always look at performance tasks. What are the students doing? And it's always fun to watch that interaction with the students.
I always took the chance when I was in the classroom, that was always a goal, is to have some form of collaboration with kids working together, solving the problems together, because that's what we do in real life. We don't sit there in isolation in a closet and say, I'm going to learn how to do this. We learn it with other people, definitely. We throw ideas off of each other. Kids need to do that too. You need to give them that opportunity.
Yeah, they know more than we think they know.
Well,
Sometimes.
but they tune out for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
One is that teachers talk too much. They monopolize it. They ignore the kids' questions.
Exactly.
You name it. There's a number of reasons why kids would just stop being engaged and care about what's going on in school. So that, and going off script again,
Yes.
so that we're into this, lot of ideas flowing today, is that if we've learned anything during COVID, is that we need to change the way we do school. And I don't mean technologically, I mean pedagogically. We need to figure out new ways of what we do. I mean, I think if we look back, and don't hold me to this, but you can go research it. But I bet you if we look back 25 years, you haven't seen that much fluctuation in our test scores in America, period. And without that, if they've been pretty static and we haven't changed what we do, because we don't, most teachers still live on an island in their classroom and still do the things that they did when they were in school, the way they were taught. They grade the way their teachers graded them, and we're not making changes. Something has to happen. That revolution needs to happen quickly in public education.
Now's the time. I know we've talked about, the different ways that we can move forward and not drop back into what we've always felt comfortable doing. We really need to keep that push forward in everything that we do.
Anything else on that topic, ladies? Because I'm just going to keep going off today.
Actually, one thing that I'd heard a lot over this past year was teachers were asking, how do I keep them from cheating? I want them to, how do I keep them from cheating? And I said, if they're able to cheat, you need to change up your activity, because cheating is copying and pasting, and copying and pasting isn't learning. So I would say, try to adjust your lesson plan. So if you're planning and you look and say, is this something that somebody could cheat off of, or like you mentioned, if they can Google it, then it's probably not engaging enough. It's not getting those higher level think. It's probably DOK1, and the kids aren't really gaining anything from it. So I said, look at that way. Can they cheat? Can someone cheat off somebody else to do this? Okay, then it's probably not the best activity. Let's try something else.
And let's be honest, I don't remember hardly anything that I go and Google. It's information in the moment that I was curious about generally.
And if it's in a context, you were curious about something, it's in a context, you probably are remembering it because you had a curiosity and an interest in it. It meant something to you. Grades are not meaningful to students nowadays. You can't just sit there and say, well, you've got to do your work and that's it. There's got to be some other reason. And the world is a reason for learning, in their future.
It is. And Melissa, you're talking about being able to Google answers. If you can Google something and get that answer directly, it's not a high level activity, period. So we needed to start developing where that Googleable information
That's a new word.
It is.
Googleable.
We're going to copyright that right now. If we can use that information to answer a question that is posed that is not Googleable, then I think we've found where kids are developing something. But if it's something where, they can fill in the blank just by searching the internet, then that's an issue.
So I talked to a former teacher who ended up working for a company, has gone back into education right now as a substitute teacher, and is working with some children who are having some deficits in their learning. And it's gotten to a point with this remote teaching where they have learned that you just sort of narrow down multiple choice questions because that's what teachers are giving them, and pick letter, E, whatever it is, and they move on, not knowing why they've chose the answer, not knowing how to figure out an answer. It's just a guessing game.
But, Googleable is going to be there for their future. But how do you Google best? How do you narrow down your search, indicators? That would be a skill that is relevant to students no matter what age, no matter what ability, that they'll be able to use for their future, and that'll actually help them.
And apply that answer to whatever the problem
Well,
is.
not only that, but how do you find multiple sources to support your thinking and diversify your thinking? Are you looking at 2-3 sides of the equation and saying, all right, this is the issue. I'm not going to look at just one side. I got to learn how to look at all sides to help inform my opinion.
What would that have done in our world during this pandemic for our fear and our concern, if we knew how to look at different sources and make an understanding of our own?
Because the media is not looking at multiple sources. They are their individual source, and it's what is it? It's just a sounding board, an echo chamber on wherever you're at. That's same with on some of our social media and who you follow. It just becomes an echo chamber. We're not listening to people and listening to a diverse set of ideas. which is what we all are.
And even data can be looked at in ways that really make us think critically, because we will have future issues. There will be problems in the world. It's not going to be like, okay, now we're all good forever. So how do students gonna deal with their future problems?
And I'm a big believer you can make data look like anything you want
That's
to.
right.
Because it all comes down to how you present it and how it's interpreted. So,
Hey, I'm retiring. You want my opinion on data?
Yeah.
well,
Data can still help you and help inform you in making relationships with those kids, letting them know that they're number one and you are directing instruction towards things that they're interested in.
Yeah, I agree. We started off on the script.
Yeah, we're way off on the script, which is fine because you know what? I am just thrilled that we're all actually, after a year, I don't know how long. I think we did 1 or 2 podcasts in my kitchen at the beginning of COVID, and then it was all remote.
Yep.
That's why Dan sounds so much better today,
Yes.
because he's on a real microphone.
I am, that's right.
Not doing this via the telephone or a Zoom meeting.
Zoom meeting, yeah. Well, and I was going to say, it's been roughly about 13 months since we were sitting in your living room, and how things have changed. Even I thought for sure that would be a one-time thing. We'll be back to normal. And here we are 13 months later, finally.
Would you all please put your masks on? I'm feeling a little uncomfortable.
Sorry.
Just kidding.
So we did.
Yeah, so I know at the beginning you
Yes.
brought up the fact, and I don't know if this is just because this is something you learned from me, and I'm going to take credit for it.
You should.
Is that at the end of every school year, Dan will attest to this. You're giving me these smiles. No, people can't see the little
You
smirks.
haven't finished your sentence. I don't know what you're going to say, but I know you.
Is that during the end of the year, I would pull out a notebook, and I would start. And by the way, teachers need to start doing this. Period. And not just because I said so. They need to become far more reflective on what has happened during the moment that they're doing their lessons, after their lessons, end of the year. And so I would start writing down things that went well. I would write down things that failed. I would write down a list of things that I want to be able to do. Now, to be honest, sometimes I never got to that I want to do that list. But I got to other parts of that list. And I would always figure then, if I'm going to do something new, what am I taking away? Maybe one of those things that didn't work so well.
Yeah.
It was a failure. I'm not going to go repeat that with a new set of students. I'm going to go try something else. Be willing then also not only in your reflection, but be willing to take a chance and try new things.
I will attest. I guess now we would do it in May. Back then we would do it in the middle of June before we get off school. And we would sit in his room and we would sit there and go through all the things that we tried.
And I'll be honest, I started making the list while the kids were doing state tests
Yes.
because I was bored out of my mind
Yeah, no.
as I was
That is true.
walking around monitoring what they're doing. I just have my notepad out and be doing that. So
But what it helped, at least for me, is, and especially at the time when I learned how to do it, was as a young teacher. I'm still young at this table, the youngest. Anyway, I digress. Was to be able to sit there and be able to discern what was valuable with my pedagogy and what was not. What did I need to change? And then it also gave me an idea of, or gave us both the idea of being optimistic of stuff that we wanted to do. One of the things, and I still have it, and I was telling Steve earlier that I was going through some old boxes that I found in the garage, and we had gotten, I want to say it's like maybe my second year of Mesquite, a artifact digging excavation type kit where the kids got to actually do some self-exploration in this little excavation kit. And it was something that we had talked about the year before getting to, and we were able to actually get to it. We had bought it the year before, didn't get to it that year, but we were able to be optimistic and look forward to it. And that just helped out tremendously. So that was a big thing.
I think I want to mention, I love you guys' idea, is that I didn't write things down, but I would tend to think of what didn't go well instead of thinking what did go well. And I think putting that emphasis first, I think teachers they're hard on themselves. And I think you need to pat yourself on the back and look at where these kids have come too in a year of working with them. Think about what it was like in August and September and that kid who kind of drove you crazy, and then look at how they are at the end of the year here. And give yourself a moment to congratulate yourself and think about that.
But also think about, here's something that did work with that kid and how I need to continue doing that with the same type of kid for the years to come.
Well, so when we talk about remote teaching versus online teaching, I think they're two different things. Remote is sort of in the moment. It's emergency. I'm generally teaching to the whole group, but good online teaching, if you have to do it next year, is going to focus more on personalization for each child, offering choice, letting them dive deeper into the topics, not you having to be online 24/7 delivering the knowledge.
And that's where we can help.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that'll go into our conversation about what we can do. You know, for me, it's also the idea of we want to always give our kids quality instruction, whether they're distant or right here in front of us. And to be honest, a lot of the times we look at the distance kids as, okay, they're there, they'll have a packet to do later on, or, you know, they're not necessarily a part of the class, they are separate, but really they are a part of that class. And so we need to be very intentional with those kids and make sure we're developing for those kids and make sure that they are still getting that quality
Okay,
instruction.
packets. Stop doing worksheets. Just stop.
I think all
I
the
agree.
teachers are on board with that, though. It's just getting that message out of.
I don't know that they are.
I don't know, yeah.
Although I did have a positive experience with a phone call one Saturday morning with a teacher while I was moving, and she finally admitted, "Hey, I finally understood what you were saying," because she had chosen to be the remote teacher while the other ones were going to be in class, and she was standing in line at the Rizzo Xerox machine and realized I don't have to make copies. I don't have to do it. We would actually, across the board, just in this district alone, save $1 million a year getting rid of copies.
I remember just setting the alarm on the clock at home so you could get up early and skip the line, you know, for making copies.
Does a kid need to do 20 problems that are all similar to show they understand it? Or can they do one with a video explanation or a written explanation that tells you how they did it and you know they got it?
And yet research lately, there's more and more research about how teachers touching, not a teacher influence.
Careful.
I know, right? Oh, no. Blowing my mind there. Teacher influence is key in any grade level, all the way up through, university level, that there's just more and more data that you are essential. Just the relationship and your presence.
It's so true. And, you know, I think I really hope that the days of page 233, do problems 1 through 33 odd, and then they come back and they didn't do well on it because they're burnt out by doing all those problems. All right, well, now let's take a look at the even ones. I'm hoping that we can get rid of those days and start going to just some good
Start
practice.
knowing what your kids need, tailoring the information. Stop buying teacher pay teachers information, because you know what? It's only going to hit kids on a fringe. It's maybe it'll hit a couple people in the middle. But you know, those activities that you buy because it's convenient, it's quick, and it's easy for your planning doesn't meet the needs of all your students.
Or it's cutesy.
And I think it goes back to what you were saying about reflection. If you take the time to reflect, I'm just thinking about, I think it was the year before I became a coach, and I had gotten tired of doing things because that's the way I'd always done it. And I never took the time to reflect, but I knew I wanted to change, but I didn't know what to change. So I basically went into my filing cabinet and threw everything away and said, okay, I'm starting over from scratch because I don't know what works and what doesn't work. And I never took the time to reflect. I might have saved myself some time. I might have found some things that were still valuable, but I didn't do that. So I think that's a really good point. And maybe we should hit on that a little bit more this year, just reminding people, are you reflecting on your practice?
So, you know, just to go in with that mindset, which is great, you get rid of that because now your teaching becomes student-centered, not on your needs and your desires for it being easy. Teaching is hard. I get that, and we often want to just try to find ways to make our job and our life easier. But that's not necessarily what's best for all of those kids sitting in front of us.
And I love to say, if you're bored by it, they're definitely bored.
For sure.
Because all the famous, educators that are celebrities, right? And then they say, if you have a passion, the kids will feed on that and they'll love it. So if it's something that interests and excites you, you can put that into a set of standards. You really can. and make it fun for everybody.
I have yet to be able to take a look at a worksheet that is getting handed out to their entire class and have that worksheet be able to be differentiated. How do you differentiate that?
You do number one,
That's
you do
about all
number
you can do.
3 and 4.
Exactly. That's that. Okay. So you're doing different problems, but you're not differentiating the assignment. So if you really want to reach your kids on an individual level, really start digging in and really planning out your lesson to where it is getting individualized by those kids.
So yeah, we're way off script,
are.
but the idea then was reflecting on what you do daily, monthly, yearly to meet the needs of the kids. And if you are just in a sense of doing emergency remote teaching because you were kind of like a brand new teacher doing emergency in-class teaching.
Which all teachers were for a good 13
yeah, you know
months.
that one point where it was this tunnel vision, here's my teacher's guide, and I can't see what's going on anywhere in my classroom. I get that, but we need to move from the emergency teaching to quality teaching, quality instruction, whether it's online or in the classroom.
And so in reading the same article that Steve and I had read, I think that the pandemic definitely shed a light on some holes in education. There's no doubt about it. It's glaringly obvious that teachers were doing a bulk of the work, like Steve was saying earlier, and distance learning has forced more of that work onto the students. It's really hard not to, because now we have to come up with activities for them to do during those Zoom sessions. And what it's actually done, which I've noticed, it's opened up this popularity amongst programs like Seesaw, Nearpod, where they have these little things on the inside of those programs. So all that being said, I think our mindset is still on that emergency mode. We need to move into quality online instruction.
Yeah, a lot of our specific online practices were trying to mimic what we used to do in our classroom, whether it was good or bad. Whether it was boring or not boring, whether it was student-centered or teacher-centered, we just tended to try to reflect that when we went online.
And sitting there on your couch with a pile of papers or a pile of online papers and just marking them up, our kids really benefiting by that. Are you benefiting?
Yeah, and be honest, teachers, I got to give them this. They had to put up with a lot of stuff that had nothing to do with student-centered instruction. It was hoops and things they needed to check off every day to be compliant. It's funny is that administration, and I'm not saying that as far as just district administration or school administration, state, federal administration, whatever it is, want you to be a compliant teacher, and teachers who want students to be compliant little followers in their classroom. Well, it ticked off teachers because they didn't want to comply with that. Think about those kids who don't want to comply with the stuff that you're trying to have them do. We got to find some new ways so that it's not playing the compliant game, it's playing the learning game.
Well, it's interesting. We're right in the middle of they're actually right at the end of grades being completed. And I was sitting with a teacher and we were going over how to use Gradebook. And she's like, well, I've got these piles of papers, but these really don't matter. And she throws them away. The minute that you have to make that discernment of whether or not that pile of papers should have been put in the grade book or not, there probably wasn't quality instruction happening with those papers anyway.
Are we back to the worksheets?
Well, not even work. I'm talking about actual, whatever I didn't see what the words, but.
Well, it doesn't matter because I haven't looked at them in 3 weeks and now I have to put in grades, so let me just lighten the load.
Yeah.
Rather than giving immediate feedback.
Yeah.
And even if you did sit there and carefully grade that 3-week-old pile, are the kids going to really look at that and benefit and grow
They've
with
moved
that
on.
feedback? They don't care anymore.
Yeah, they've moved on. And so that it brings us to the idea of what we can do for you, what coaches can do. Is some of the stuff that we do.
Well, you're trying to bring this back on track.
I am. I'm trying really hard. And that's okay, though. That's the fun of doing this, especially in the same room. But it really does lead to what we can do. And some of the stuff that the 4 of us can do, all the coaches can do.
Speak for yourself.
I will. I'll speak for the 3 of us. How
there
about
you
that?
go.
Yes. Some of the stuff we can do, all the coaches can do, but there are some specialties that go along with that. What are some things that us coaches can do to help drive this idea home of kids doing their individualized work or differentiated work and really being engaged with that? What can we do to help them, help teachers?
The best thing that I enjoyed over the last 6 years as being a coach was not teaching teachers how to do a Google form or the parts of Google Docs. That was easy, right, guys? I mean,
Yes,
let's be honest.
I agree.
For us in the tech world, teaching that's easy. The best part was when we were asked to come alongside the teacher and help improve their instruction through the use of this technology. There's examples I've had of the kid who was a problem child. Teacher didn't want the kid in the classroom. I went out and talked to him. I brought him in, and once he was doing work that challenged him and interested him, he was not a problem in the classroom.
Behavior changes.
Amazing.
It's funny because Steve and I had a chance over the last 6 years to sit down with a lot of teachers, and we were at a training, and one of the teachers says, "You know, I was reading John Hattie's book, and he says in the book that technology does not have a very high effective rate on student learning." Steve and I kind of looked at each other and went, "You're right. You're absolutely right." And she was like taken aback, like, "What do you mean I'm right?" She was waiting for that discourse.
You're a tech guy.
You're a tech guy. And Steve very calmly looked at her and goes, "But as a tool, it's a very higher effect rate on students than it does as just the curriculum." And that's what she was trying to get at, was the fact that, if I just put my kids on there, it's such a low effect rate. But really, if it's used as a quality tool, that number goes way off the charts.
Right.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it again because, it ticks somebody off. I don't care. It's the end of my career. Technology is not going to replace teachers. But teachers who effectively use technology in their classroom definitely will be replacing those who can't or won't touch it.
And I remember the first time you said that was at a Chromebook Academy, and to see some of the faces in there, because you always usually pause.
I usually have a
Right
big
there,
pause.
yeah.
Technology's not going to replace you. Yeah, that's right. We're teachers.
Yeah, it's a tool. If you can get kids to use the tool, their learning will go off the charts. If you're going to use it to babysit the kids,
Yeah.
don't expect anything.
What do you want to hear from teachers as far as how you help them? What do you want to do when you interact as a coach with teachers?
I want to collaborate. I want to hear what's a lesson, what's a standard that you either struggle with or love, and let's pump it up. Let's make it student-centered and relatable. Because kids, why would they care? They're sitting in their house over here in Palmdale, and, is this something they're going to care about? And it's easy to do. It's easy for us to do that together.
Well, yeah, it's drawing on the strengths of each other.
Yeah, don't do it by yourself. It's hard to do anything by teaching is hard.
It is.
So, let's collaborate and then have the kids collaborate.
But remember, it doesn't have to be that hard. It's when you start taking all of it on yourself.
Yeah.
When you start doing the kids' jobs, then it gets really, really hard. But if we can make it to where the kids have their own job, which is learning, things get so much easier.
Yeah, get the kids working,
Yeah.
and your life is going to be a whole lot simpler.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just kind of taking the burden off the teacher's shoulders for the learning. Be the facilitator, provide them resources and tools to be able to get the job done. But like, you mentioned, Jerry, you were speaking with a teacher who the teacher was not sure where to go with it, what kind of topics to use. And the kids came up to her and said, "Hey, I know we can do this. Hey," and the kids started taking charge of the learning, and she let them go and said the kids didn't just fly, they soared, and they were creating all these amazing things that she didn't have the time or the creativity in her own mind to create these things.
She started it, but they ran with it. And can
Right.
I give her a shout out?
Sure.
Ms. Donker, Felicia Donker at ELA Junior High and ELD, and her kids are just, she's been coming to Tech Tuesdays and working with Steve and Dan and Melissa and myself, and she just said, "Nope, let's try these things," and then the kids just took it and ran with it.
Don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of teachers that have taken this opportunity over the last
yeah.
13 months to really change what they do. And I'll give you a great
Well, I'm going to even
example
say
as well.
over the last 6 years.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I can name names like Michelle Lake, who
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it changed the way she looked at education completely. Over the last 13 months, I can take a look at Maureen Turner over at Tumbleweed, a teacher who, if you had told me 14 months ago, yeah, she'll be using technology, she's going to thrive in it, and she's going to love it, I would have said, "You're crazy." And I've told her this. over the last 13 months, she has completely changed the way she looks at technology in her classroom, the way she uses it with her kids. She uses it as a tool to further their learning instead of it being just another thing in the classroom, which I think is just tremendous. For me, for teachers, when I want to work with a teacher, yeah, some of it has to do with the standard or the content, but for me, it's the pedagogy. I don't care what the content is. How can we make it to where you can reach your kids and really get them to dive in themselves to really understand the content?
And they own it.
And they own it.
Yeah.
I had a teacher also this year who called a meeting with me after I'd already gone over and listened to what he wanted to accomplish in his classroom. And I said, well, why don't we try the Fast and Curious Edu protocol? I'd forgotten all about it. A couple months later, he says, I want to show you all the data. I mean, he had the data.
Oh, wow.
And he could tell you how much they improved because he went after it consistently with what's the word I'm looking for?
Bigger.
Well, not vigor, but
Enthusiasm?
forget the word.
He went. I would say he went through it with confidence. I mean, he went into it knowing that this is what I'm going to do over the next X amount of weeks, and I want to see. He stuck with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was determined to really.
And then reflected, but
Yeah.
instead of using it once and then go, oh, that was hard, or
He did it with
they didn't.
fidelity.
Fidelity.
That's
There
the
you
word.
go. There you
Yeah,
go.
because I was certainly the person who would try something. Oh, the kids ask too many questions. I'm not going to do this again. Well, yeah, it takes a while to learn something. The learning curve for us and them, it's going to be a bit. Allow some growth. I wanted instantaneous change right away with my kids, and it's like
And the
no.
fact that they're asking clarifying questions should be the reflection point for you that
Yep.
Exactly.
I needed to be thinking about this lesson a little bit deeper or put in some scaffolds to make it more accessible to my students.
But don't go down on yourself and say, "Oh, I didn't clarify well enough." Just keep going with that, because how do you know what the learning's going to entail on something new until you get in there and see what's happening with it and do that reflection?
Then you go back and fix it.
Yeah.
Say, all right, it's still got merit. Let's
not a
try it
fail.
again.
Yeah, that's not a fail. That's a process.
Yeah, I agree.
Plus, we work with kids, so kids. There's always those divergent thinkers where you think this is basically how it's supposed to go, and then one kid comes out of left field, and you're like,
Wow.
never
Yeah, so here's
considered that.
another thing that
Yeah.
you bring this up. Here's another thing teachers should stop doing. Stop thinking you know it all.
Yeah.
That was my
You
next
are
thing.
not the holder of all knowledge
Well, that's what I
anymore
meant
in this
earlier.
world.
Yeah, there's no way. There is physically, realistically, no way ever that you are the sage on the stage. It just ain't gonna happen. Sorry.
It's funny. I used to a joke in my room. I used to tell my kids. At the very beginning of the year, I'm telling my kids about me, and one of the points was always I'm the third smartest person in the world. And the kids would sit there and, well, who's number two? I don't know. I haven't met them. Well, who's number one? I don't know. I haven't met them. And it was always a joke in my classroom, but really it meant that anybody could be the number two. Anybody could be number one. Why does it have to matter?
Always someone who knows more than you, and
that's
my mom told me.
exactly. And it's okay. It's okay that the 10-year-old knows more on the Promethean than the 40-something-year-old.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh, well, by the way, congratulations, ladies, on becoming Google certified
Yes, congratulations.
for education trainers.
Thank you.
I guess I'm losing mine because I won't have the hours to keep it. But even being Google certified, listen to the kids. I remember going in and teaching a basic slides lesson, using some Avid strategies with the kid. And all of a sudden, I saw this multicolored background out of a radial tie-dye looking thing. And I go, I don't know at all. And I had to sneak over to that kid. All right, how'd you do that? Yeah, come on, show me. I need to know.
Yeah.
And I go, it was that easy? Oh, yeah.
There's
Kids,
always something.
their kids got these things down.
They really do.
Yeah, and teachers will say, "Well, I want to know all of this before I use it in my classroom." I said, "No, all of what? There's no knowing it all. Google any of this tech. There's always something you're going to be missing."
Or when you're meeting with a teacher and they say, I'm sure you probably already know this. And then they pose their question. We go, I have no idea what you're talking about. Let's find out. And we
Yep.
go through that learning process. It is okay not to know. Because by the time you're done, we're working with the student or working with one of us, you will know.
Although I think as coaches, one of the greatest things we've done is train a lot of the teachers in our district who will actually write the email and say, yes, I have already Googled it and I still need help.
That's probably because we sent them the website. This is how, or was it?
Let me Google that for you.
Yeah, no, it's, and I know we can talk about this left and right. You know, I know we've talked about what us coaches to do, but what can we not do? What is something we don't do?
I don't know how to plug those things in, man. How do you get those cords? What's that? What's a USB-C?
Well, as coaches, as coaches, what do we not do? What is it?
We do not evaluate.
We do not. We are not admin.
We are not admin.
And we don't talk to admin about your classroom.
No, we really don't. And I've walked into classrooms and I've thought I should go talk to admin, but then I thought, no, I don't want to blow the trust with that teacher, and then I have a conversation with them individually.
Because it's not about what we're not going to do. It's
Yeah.
about how we are going to take you to another level. There's some schools in our district that have more veteran staffs, and they've been around longer than me, believe it or not, some of them.
Wow.
And it wasn't about going in and saying, I'm going to change what you're doing. But what I want to do is take you from where you are, because every teacher, no matter how good you are, has room to grow. And I want to help you grow even just a little bit to make a difference with those kids in your classroom.
I want to add to that for a minute, because when I would ask for help, I thought, oh, my admin's watching me. They know there's something wrong. I'm being judged. And I needed to move out of that mindset to say, no, my admin's watching me and going to be so proud that I'm pushing my skills and I'm reaching out and I'm growing and risk-taking.
I remember walking into classrooms as a brand new coach and having teachers sort of jump up from their desk. Oh, I was just checking my email. I don't care.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry, I'm going to come back. If you went to your principal and you asked, what's ELD, then you might have had a problem.
I really was. I was worried about getting help and looking like I didn't know what I was doing. And I spent many years trying to stop being a new teacher in my mind. And it got to a point where it's like, you know what? No, just try to grow and try to be better, and don't always be worried. I'm being judged. I'm being judged by my colleagues or by my admin.
Take something to a new level.
Well, for a lot of years, a coach in Palmdale School District meant that teacher was struggling with something.
Yes, that's part of my problem.
Yeah,
back
and
then.
so they're working with the I can't even remember
Program
what
improvement.
The program improvement coach. Oh, they've got an issue. That's not what we are here to do. We are here. If you think you're the best teacher there is, I guarantee you we can help you push you a little further.
And I say that our district administrators really don't look at us that way. As they're not looking at us as program improvement coaches, though.
It's program improvement,
right. Because as I say, my immediate thought, and some of my teachers even, I was like, oh, I'm going to look like I'm weak,
right,
or I need help. No, that's and our admin doesn't think of us that way.
No, we're not, and it doesn't matter. Like I said, it doesn't matter how many years you're in. You can. Even now, there's stuff that I'll be going into my 7th year as a coach. And I'm still finding stuff out that I'm learning, whether it's online or fellow coaches or even from teachers that I'm coaching.
Well, a few years ago, I don't know if you remember, because we all participated in it, we designed the Propel program. Right. And the purpose behind the Propel is, by definition, to drive or cause to move forward, forward or onward, to impel, to urge forward or onward, which is what we want to do as coaches. We don't want to sit there and say, well, let me show you how to do that worksheet better. It's not. We want to move you forward. You were going to say, Melissa.
Well, I was just thinking about, if you look at what a coach in general is, professional sports, right? These people are very skilled. They are amazing at what they do. They make all the big bucks, but they're also, they're pushing themselves, and they're the best at the best, and they still have a coach, because the coach is there to push them to be better. So famous, but there's singers have vocal coaches, and actors have acting coaches, and yet there's still that little bit of a stigma of a teacher having a coach, but it shouldn't be, because if any,
That's not the point.
Yeah, everybody who's good at something usually has a coach, because they need them to help them
Because
get
they want
better.
to do better.
They want right.
Jack Nicklaus, one of the best golfers ever to live, had a swing coach, had a putting coach. Tiger Woods has a swing coach. I mean, it's okay.
So what are you saying? If you don't want to coach, you don't want to get better?
Not necessarily. I knew you were going to do that.
Someone had to
I
say
need
it.
a yoga coach, man, like meditation.
Right. But I think coaches, we want to meet your personal goals. There are things that you want to work on. Okay.
Correct.
Not something that we want you to work on. What is it that you want to pedagogically? It's not about I want to learn how to use Google Docs, right? It's maybe how I can incorporate that into student learning. What is your personal goal you want to learn? We want to collaborate and be trusted to collaborate with you. We want, even if you're a highly effective teacher, we said it, move to a new level.
Can I mention that we might actually make your life easier in the long run?
Well, we want to help ease your burdens, right? That's one of the things that back when we set up Propel was to ease your burdens. And part of that would be with, well, we can help you plan. That's easing your burden,
Yep.
right? We can help show you ways to get what students know and have less grading for you.
Yes, less grading.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
Make planning easier, grade less,
yeah,
student
and
interaction more.
it's not to step in and remediate you
No.
because you need to be remediated. That's not what we do as coaches by any means. We come in, watch the play, and give some advice and run the play again. Let's keep on going.
Swing, bada, bada, bada.
And that's one of the reasons why John Kripp always uses football plays as one of his metaphors when he's talking about, edge protocols and anything that he did, anything that revolves around coaching. Ladies, any last words?
We're going to miss you, Steve.
Yeah.
We're really going to miss you. Don't get me started.
I'll be back here
Who's
on
gonna insult
podcasts.
us,
That's
you
right.
know? We got to get a hard time from someone to push us, right? Propel us with their. Sorry, you gonna do that, Dan?
I will do that.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody can keep you guys
Yeah.
wrangled. That just
That's true.
Probably not.
Squirrels all over the place.
But if you haven't heard, Steve, like Steve said, he's retiring. I am taking over his spot at the DO, so I will have a handful of schools, but we're going to work together to really work with you guys. And, I'm really pumped to be able to kind of broaden my horizons and really help out the entire district.
and when you get stuck, just give me a call. Y'all
Yeah,
right.
we're all,
Well, we will.
That's right.
But teachers, you cannot email me because I guess my email gets shut down. Like
Saturday.
probably.
Yeah, probably that quickly.
Maybe you should change your phone number too, Steve. I don't know.
No.
I hate to say it, and I'll tell everybody is that the district office phone number that I have is still forwarded to my cell phone.
Oh, no.
I went to go disconnect it, and the phone is missing. There is no way for me to disconnect that forwarded phone. So if you're desperate and none of these other coaches want to talk to you, just call that number. I'll see it's from Palmdale School District. I said, all right.
He'll pick it up and shout, "Go away!"
Hey, I'm retired. What are you doing?
Here's Dan's number.
Let me give you their personal cell phone numbers.
That's right. Well, what, guys, this is our finale for the year. What's one last piece of advice you want to give teachers heading into the summer?
Man, just take a minute to breathe and enjoy your family. And I know you're going to be thinking about work, but just make sure they take that time to
I just
Just-
go outside, look around, listen to the bird song, and you might get so inspired. And then when you get back to school, your students can listen to bird song.
I'd say finish strong this last week. Keep your kids engaged. Let them know that you care, that it's not about you, that everyone in your classroom, whether it's in the classroom or remote, it is about those kids, and they need to know it's about them if you're going to make any changes academically, socially with those kids, period. But then don't worry about things you have no control of. You don't know what the fall will look like, whether you're all in, hybrid, what the schedule is going to look like, any of that. Let it go. Worry about it when it's time.
Yeah, I agree with all you guys. Life does move pretty fast. This summer's going to go by really quick. Take some time for yourself. Make sure you're looking around every once in a while. Find the bird you haven't seen very well. Find the dog that's been barking in the neighborhood.
Squirrels. Oh.
But take some time and come back ready for next year. Again, we don't know what that's going to look like. But you know what? Over the last 13 months, we haven't known what it's going to look like.
those 2 weeks were a long 13 months.
They
right?
really were. They really, really were.
I'll be a quarterback quarterback, excuse me. I'll be a quarterback on the couch.
But the big idea is still the big idea, students and what they're going to take away from being around us.
Very
Main
true.
thing.
All right, guys. Have a great summer.
You too.
Yes.
Stay out of trouble. Don't do anything evil.
What?
You either, because you have more time to create evil.
You're a role model. We're going to get into trouble, Steve. Seriously.
Oh, I'm a rule follower, and you all know it deep
Yeah,
down.
right.
I do know it, and still.
People just think I don't follow the rules.
That's right. All right, Palmdale School District, have a great summer. We'll see you guys soon.
Have a great one.
Bye-bye.
Almost time to throw away the masks.
But continue to wash your hands.
Yes, please
Please.
wash your hands.
30 seconds.
But in California, COVID ends on June 15th. What time on June 15th?
Yeah.
Noon. There will be an eclipse
Noon.
of the moon and the sun all at once.
Okay, just checking.
See what happens when you don't watch the news.
You didn't know COVID's officially ending on June 15th
Actually,
in
officially
California?
ending.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Told me.
Ciao. Arrivederci.
Have a good summer.
Bye.